Welcome to Healing the Spirit, a space where we awaken our creativity, deepen our connections, and remember who we are through the lens of astrology, archetypes, and art making. I'm your host, Jonathan Coe. Hello, everyone. Well, happy almost full moon in Leo. If you're listening to this as I'm releasing it, within about 24 hours or so, we'll have the full moon in Leo. And the full moon in Leo is always such an interesting time, at least from the perspective of where I live, which is in Brooklyn, New York, because here it is. The sun is in Aquarius, the moon is in Leo, and we all know that Leo carries the signification of life force energy and the sun. And it's literally freezing, and I am sitting in my study room recording this, and my ass is literally frozen. So it's always such an interesting time, but yeah, I wanted to come on today. I pulled some tarot cards and I wanted to share this reading with you all because it feels really, what's the word I'm looking for here? This one feels sticky. This particular full moon in Leo feels sticky. And I think part of the reason why that could be is that the full moon is squaring Uranus in Taurus. And so Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, these are all fixed signs, right? And fixed signs, when we see a configuration of fixed signs in the skies, that can really signify a sticky relationship. That signifies tension arising between individual needs versus collective needs, and also very real needs, right? Like very physical body needs. And to me, part of navigating that is in looking at the other sign that's not activated, which is Scorpio, right? I think there's an invitation for the specific full moon in Leo to kind of look underneath the hood and to investigate some of the deeper archetypal patterns that are creating this tension or perhaps aggravating the tension. There's also, when we look at the astrology of this specific full moon, we also have a full moon that is opposing Mercury and Ceres. So Mercury and Ceres are both in Aquarius, very close to the sun, within 2 degrees. And we can expect themes around communication, exchange, transitions from Mercury. We can expect themes around nourishment, around care, around grief from Ceres to be illuminated and present during this full moon. There's also a funny story that I wanted to share before we get into the tarot reading portion, which was a couple days ago. I had a friend ask me about my experience sharing thoughts on the internet. And specifically, this friend has been wanting to create reels on Instagram. And he was asking me, can you share some of your thoughts about that fear of being seen? And I had to pause there for a moment because, like him, I also thought before I kind of started going on Instagram, sharing my thoughts, and especially sharing my face on Instagram, I had thought previously that my fear was around being seen. But when he asked that question, what blurred it out of me was that I was actually more afraid of not being able to use the technology and not being able to create videos of a certain quality. So, in a sense, I was actually afraid of technology. And if I look a little bit deeper, my fear of technology actually had to do with my fear of looking stupid. Not to anybody else, but just really to myself, or maybe even deeper than that is the fear of admitting that I don't know, admitting that I need help. The reason why I shared the story is because I do feel this theme coming in for the Leo full moon as well. That part of what we've been labeling as the fear of being seen, which is related to the themes of Leo, may actually be rooted in our fears of admitting what we don't know, admitting the places within us that are foreign even to ourselves, right? The parts of us that are alien. When we think about things that we are afraid of, things that we feel we can't possibly start doing, oftentimes it's because we haven't yet met that part of us. That part of us is still deeply alien to us. It's still unknown. And so this is the first piece of contemplation that I would like to offer to us here, feeling into this coming full moon. Where am I confusing my fear of seeing myself through that lens of the alien, through that lens of the unknown, through that lens of the strange? Where am I confusing that for fear of being seen by other people? Sometimes we make excuses to not do something because our minds think that we are afraid of other people's judgments, but actually, perhaps, we are more afraid of our own judgment towards ourselves. Our inability or fear of loving ourselves, because loving ourselves then highlights the grief of having not loved ourselves for a very, very long time, right? That part of the psyche, that part of the self hasn't been tended to for a very long time. And so let's get to the tarot card portion, shall we? So I pulled a few cards. The first card that I pulled was an anchor card. And essentially, when I was thinking about the anchor card, it really is a card to root us in this present moment. What do we need to look at? What do we need to see in our internal and external experience? And the card that I pulled was Death Reversed. So something wants to die here. Something wants to decompose, and yet it's not yet ready to fully let go of its grip. There's still a power struggle here. There's still attachment to that which is dying. And so let's pause here and let's feel into what in our lived experience is ready to decompose. Where are you clinging on for dear life, for something that no longer has life force, something that you no longer desire, but feel you must keep for your survival? The thing is, death carries a paradox, right? The laws of conservation of energy says energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Rather, it can only be transformed or transferred from one form to another. And so, death is a dance that life form moves through as it transforms into another life form. And as we work with this tension of that which wants to decompose, and the parts of us that are afraid of the implication of that decomposition. Let's remember death as a dance, right? Death as a state that is actually impermanent, because everything is impermanent in this universe, right? So let us keep this in mind as we look at the things that are dying in our reality. The next card that I pulled was what we're here to illuminate for ourselves. As we're thinking about the moon in Leo, we can lean on the potency of the moon in Leo around illuminating aspects of our own internal experience, our own personal experiences, and see what wisdom arises. And the card that I pulled for what we're here to illuminate for ourselves is Page of Wands reversed. We think we are afraid of rushing into our passion. We think we're afraid of consequences that can come up when we follow our desires. But the Page of Wands, especially coming up reversed, is asking us to investigate, have you even touched in with your true desires? Or is the thing that you say you want, is that just a surface level need that perhaps requires a deeper investigation, that perhaps requires a deeper exploration, or even deeper surrender? Are you finding yourself stuck in the limbo of the waiting room? Are the things that you want truly the things that you want, or are they simply distractions? So recently I've been thinking a lot about how our spiritual tools can either be helping us get into deeper self-honesty with ourselves, not from a place of punishing ourselves, not from a place of hating on ourselves, but really from a place of desiring to see ourselves more clearly. Or are our spiritual tools getting us further away from that? Are our spiritual tools becoming yet another excuse not to go after what our intuition is leading us into? To what extent are the things that you desire shaped by feeling like you need to prove yourself, feeling like you need to do something to survive, right? And can we pause there and actually reconnect with the true desires? Going back to the anchor card being death reversed, is there something here that wants to be released? Is there an erroneous or an outdated belief that maybe we want to unshackle ourselves from? What is actually moving through us in this moment? What is actually alive? Page of Wands reversed is about that non-linear, messy process of becoming a student, of becoming an observer and a humble listener of our desires. A question that came to my mind as I was thinking about Page of Wands reversed was, have we spent the time to sit by the metaphorical fireplace of our desire, to really listen to the crackling of the flame, gently devouring the woods? Have we spent time by the metaphorical vast body of lake to listen to the rippling of our desire, which lives as this giant fish at the bottom of the lake? Page of Wands reversed is a reminder that sometimes what we need is simply to listen. That our desires are great forces. They really are these large spirits. They don't always, at least in the beginning, they don't always need us to act on their behalf. But what they often ask us to do is to deeply listen, to really spend some time with them, and to be in that state of communing with the heart of that desire. It's reminding me of our relationship with grandparents, especially loving, nurturing, healthy grandparents, right? Many of us have had that experience of looking into our grandmother or grandfather's eyes and seeing this vast love that they have for us, this ferocious devotion and commitment, this sense of pride of your existence is literally what my existence has led to. You know, there is that connection that can be so potent and beautiful and healing with our grandparents, because there's an absence of them trying to fix us, you know, in the healthy version of that relationship, right? It's almost like they're able to see us on a spirit level and witness us and celebrate us. And so my experience in touching in with the deep desire is very similar. That deep desire is a great force moving through us and moving through the universe. And sometimes it just wants us to sit with them and commune with them. The next card that I pulled was for what we're here to illuminate for the collective. And this is inspired by the sun in Aquarius. The card that I pulled was the Eight of Wands. What we're here to illuminate for the collective is the urgency. There's so much movement going on in the collective. Most of it is noise, most of it is distraction, most of it have no true resonance for us. True embodied spirituality calls us to go into the depths. It asks us to really be with the question of, what about this current movement? What about the current chaos is wanting to teach me something? Where am I forgetting that God is actually in the chaos? God is in the discomfort. God is in the crisis. Rather than tapping out completely, there's an invitation here to be curious despite the disorienting nature of what's going on around us. Earlier today, I had a client that I was speaking to, and she said something that really struck me. She said, rather than thinking about the current times as a shit show, let's call it an opportunity show. And I love that. I really love that. I do think that moments of fear, moments of especially manufactured fear, right? Moments of what ifs are such important teachers for us, and they really illuminate for us places where we still hold on to the illusion of fear. And we can both love our humanity, you know, the parts of us that are afraid, we can really love on that part. And we can remind ourselves of our divinity that is deeply connected to the reality that love is the only truth there is. I've been reading the book A Course in Miracles. Some of you may know it or know it intimately. And at the start of the book, there was a quote that really struck me. It says, "Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. And so, my recommendation around this collective invitation to witness the Eight of Wands moment we're currently in is to first get really curious about the state of our human, the state of our nervous system, the state of our physical vessel, the state of our emotional regulation. What do we need to feel resourced? What do we need to feel safe? It is a misunderstanding that a regulated nervous system is always calm. Calmness is not the same as being regulated. Being regulated means connected to a sense of sovereignty and agency. And so, when we think about being resourced, oftentimes on a physical level, it's quite simple. It's really just resourcing ourselves with a glass of water, resourcing ourselves with taking a nap, getting a little bit of rest, resourcing ourselves with softness, cuddling with our furry friends, laughing with a friend on the phone, embracing a loved one that we trust, right? And then once we feel resourced, to really stay focused on the tasks at hand. There's a lot moving, but remember, you only have two hands. You only have two eyes. You only have 2 feet. So, on a practical level, my invitation is for you to find a cause that you deeply care about. Something that really bothers you on a deep level, something that's breaking your heart, something that brings you down. Maybe it's the environment, the non-human world. Maybe it's the rights of people that society put on the margin. Maybe it's the lack of communication and understanding between one group of people and another. Maybe it's someone you know in your local community who needs company or who needs a little bit of help. And then I invite you to really take the tiniest action you can possibly take. One of the tendencies in Eight of Wands moment is to go straight for the heroic, right? To go straight into what is the most fabulous, impactful thing I can do. And one of my mentors, Erin Rose, is always talking about the importance of remembering that our mission extends to the smallest aspects of our lives. It's about the daily things. It's about the little things we do. It's not always about making a huge spectacle out of things. And in challenging moments, activating moments where that Eight of Wands energy is really present, often what we really need are the people who are tending to the details. The next card is around guidance on how to bridge the gap. And what I received was the Ten of Pentacles. This card was really interesting to receive in terms of how we can build a bridge between the individual and the collective needs. To me, Ten of Pentacles is about inheritance. It's about tradition. This card makes me think specifically of the wisdom that we receive from our ancestors that are operating on a DNA level. All of us have this deep knowing within us. There's a more ancient way of being, one that's closer to the intelligence of the earth, that we get to access all the time. The other day, I was sitting across a friend and I brought in this question that really was coming from a mental place. I wanted to know how to plan ahead for a specific situation. And my friend paused me and asked me to really sit with my body and ask my body for wisdom. And literally within 2 seconds, I got it. I got the answer. It was such a magical moment. We know how to speak to the land. We know how to connect with the cycles of nature. And I'm so convinced of this because we are nature, right? We may have been taught intellectually to forget this, but the reality is that our bodies are nature. We are so deeply connected with that intelligence. It's so instantaneously available to us. And if we just give ourselves a little bit of space to slow down, to lean back into the knowing of our bodies, then we will hear the messages. Our ancestral intelligences are deeply braided into the strands of our DNAs. We don't have to do a whole thing. We can if we want to, right? Some people do really elaborate rituals for their ancestors. Some people do really elaborate research on their ancestors. I think these are all such beautiful ways of connecting with our ancestors. And in listening more deeply to our bodies and in deeply nourishing our bodies, we begin to remember these ancient ways. And we also become attuned to the intelligence of how we can implement the ancient ways right now. There's no such thing as going back to the past. We can't possibly recreate the past, but we can transfer or implement this wisdom in a way that respects the present moment and that reflects our internal conviction of the reality that is always available to us. Finally, the last card that I pulled was I requested an ally in our healing journey for this full moon. And what I got was the Queen of Swords. When I pulled the Queen of Swords as an ally, what I heard was don't waste your energy. Again, there are so many ways to get distracted, and there's no shame in getting distracted. That's part of the human experience. And also, running yourself to the ground is ultimately unkind to yourself and to the collective. The Queen of Swords asks us to practice keeping our eyes open, to practice keeping our attention on tracking the patterns that we see in the larger world from a distance. Queen of Swords is herself Aquarius energy. She's unafraid to appear cold or calculating or not empathetic because she understands that beyond other people's judgment, accessing that state of looking at the bigger picture helps us access a certain superpower, right? That broader perspective is deeply healing. That broader perspective sees that whenever there is a lot of harm, there are also opportunities for repair and opportunities for exercising and expressing care. Whenever there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of opportunities to shine a light on that which brings us fear and therefore dispelling the fear altogether. There are many new perspectives we can access if we allow ourselves to look to the elders and the mystics and the thinkers who are amidst us, who are dreaming and considering new ways of being, of looking at things. So, in conclusion, my invitation is for us to resource ourselves, to give ourselves permission to be honest with ourselves about where we currently are, and then to give ourselves permission to look at the broader perspective, to look at what else is out there, what else are people not talking about that is actually a sign of progress, that is actually a sign of all of us moving in a direction that's healing and nurturing. That can be really difficult to find, but it's somewhere in there. All right. That's it for this full moon. I hope this reading has been helpful for you, and I'm sending you so much love, and I look forward to the next time that we gather again. Thank you.